All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we are absolutely diving into the deep end, unmasking the global web behind Operation Southern Shield. We're going to be unpacking a massive geopolitical story that's unfolding right now on the southern edge of Egypt. We'll see exactly how what looks like a local border security initiative actually plugs straight into international shadow economies and global gold cartels. If you've ever wanted to understand the true hidden geopolitical role of borders today, well, you are in the right place. Let's get into it.
So let's start with a number, 1,280. That is the massive, honestly imposing length in kilometers of the Egypt-Sudan border. And we're not just talking about a simple line drawn in the sand here. This is a vast, rugged, completely unforgiving terrain. It's basically a natural fortress made of high mountains and deep deserts. Traditional security? It really struggles to even maintain a foothold here. Understanding this brutal geography helps explain exactly why this 1,280-kilometer stretch is so incredibly strategic for anyone trying to move things around undetected. To truly put that vastness into perspective for a second, this border is roughly twice the length of the boundary between France and Spain. It's 3 times the length of the border between Germany and Poland. So securing a frontier of this absolute magnitude, it isn't just about putting some guards at a few checkpoints. It is a monumental logistical nightmare. It completely changes how we think about an army protecting its borders when the sheer physical space offers literally endless hiding spots. To make sense of all this, we're going to break it down into 4 key areas. First up, the imposing frontier. Second, shadows in the mountains. Third, the global web. And lastly, the shield and the screen. Okay, Section 1, the imposing frontier. Let's look at the physical reality of this border.
So, the current crisis we're seeing, it definitely didn't happen overnight. It's actually been a slow burn escalation over more than a decade. If we go back to 2012, Sudan changed its policies to allow widespread, mostly unregulated civilian gold mining. But fast forward to the terrible outbreak of the Sudan War in 2023, and those armed prospectors, locally known as the Dahaba, were violently pushed out. They were aggressively driven right up against the Egyptian border. Suddenly, what used to be just an economic hustle became a massive security threat, culminating in the clashes that led to Operation Southern Shield.
Moving right along to Section 2, shadows in the mountains. Let's pull back the curtain on the smugglers themselves.
Because a porous border is really only half the story, right? The real issue is the organized network operating inside it. On the ground, you've got local smugglers extracting gold and navigating that crazy terrain just for pure profit. But, and this is crucial, they are not acting alone. The staggering amount of wealth they dig up actually funds the regional operations of the Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF militia. And sitting pretty at the very top of this whole hierarchy, international refiners. They act as the sophisticated washing machine that gives these violent cartels access to the legitimate global market.
Now, beyond the gold, our sources report some highly charged claims about how these mafia networks are exploiting the region. According to the reports, smugglers are actively trying to turn this territory into a huge, unregulated hub for illegal migration heading toward Europe. The sources also outline claims that these cartels are deliberately trying to cause demographic and economic strain inside Egypt. There are even allegations of coordination with factions of the Afrocentric movement to establish undocumented settlements right across the border.
Which brings us to Section 3, the global web. Time to zoom out and look at the international networks.
Check out this number, 5,000. That's the projected amount of gold in tons that will be produced globally in the year 2025. To wrap your head around that, 5,000 tons is basically the weight of about 1,000 full-grown elephants. It's an almost incomprehensible scale of wealth. And this is exactly the global industry that these armed border cartels are tapping into. It really highlights how localized gold trafficking in Africa actively bleeds into and, frankly, destabilizes massive global financial markets.
So how does this underbelly actually work? Well, it operates like a highly efficient machine. Step 1, raw gold is violently extracted from the mountains in Sudan. Step 2, it's systematically smuggled out and funneled into major international aggregation markets, specifically places like Dubai. From there, it goes straight to the world's largest refineries in Switzerland, where the illicit gold is melted down, mixed with clean gold, and entirely legitimized. Finally, this newly clean gold gets traded completely openly on global exchanges in London, New York, and Shanghai. Wild, right?
You might be wondering, why gold? Why does this specific pipeline matter so much? Because unlike oil, which you burn, or weapons, which eventually get destroyed, gold holds its value forever. It is literally the perfect untraceable currency. The hidden influence of this black market is just profound. It gives shadow networks and militias the ultimate tool to completely bypass traditional banking, dodge international sanctions, and quietly destabilize global finance without ever leaving a paper trail.
And that brings us to our final section, the shield and the screen. Let's look at Egypt's comprehensive response to all of this.
So Egypt's response is Operation Southern Shield. But the Egyptian military's overall vision recognizes a really hard-learned truth. You simply cannot solve a deeply rooted economic and geographic problem with bullets alone. As our sources emphasize, this operation isn't just a crackdown. It's multi-tiered. It is designed to be a massive economic transformation project to establish long-term order, running perfectly in parallel with the hard military action against the smugglers.
On the economic side of things, the military is fundamentally transforming remote border towns, like Halaib and Shalateen. We're talking about areas that once had absolutely zero basic infrastructure, and now they're being developed into state-of-the-art logistics hubs. They're setting up highly secure corporate bases and building guarded industrial zones dedicated entirely to extracting rare minerals. Basically, they are methodically replacing a very chaotic, dangerous shadow economy with a tightly guarded, strictly legitimate one.
But we can't forget that the impact of an army goes way beyond just holding territory. It's fundamentally about human lives. Look at this quote from a rescued Sudanese miner. The Egyptian government treated us with trust, they fed us, gave us drink, and sheltered us. Ground reports actually show that armed cartels were taking civilian miners hostage up in the mountains, using them as literal human shields. The military's tactical response strategically isolated those cartels, safely got the hostages out, and gave them much-needed medical care.
Now here's where things take a very modern twist. Today, this battle isn't just happening in the physical mountains. It's happening right on our smartphones. It is literally the army versus the mafia on social media. Smugglers were heavily using platforms like TikTok to broadcast false claims that the border was totally chaotic, trying to encourage more illegal crossings. In direct response, the military started hitting back with their own short-form reels. They started projecting transparent state authority, visibly secure borders, and showcasing the actual humanitarian care they were providing.
This turned into a highly cohesive and honestly unprecedented military media strategy. Realizing they were deep in a modern information war, the armed forces started using the exact same digital platforms as the cartels to completely dismantle the mafia's misinformation. By aggressively flooding short-form video feeds with ground truth reality, they are actively cutting off the smugglers' ability to recruit, deceive, and make a profit online. It's a fascinating shift in tactics.
So, dismantling the shadows 1 kilometer at a time. Ultimately, Operation Southern Shield is not just some localized border skirmish. What we are looking at is a comprehensive, modern blueprint for tackling multifaceted geopolitical threats. It proves, for sure, that it takes a strategic mix of hard military power, heavy economic development, and aggressive digital transparency to truly lock down a crucial region like this.
As borders increasingly become the front lines of global finance, it leaves us with one incredibly provocative question. Who truly controls the wealth beneath the sand? Next time you look at a border on a map, remember, you aren't just looking at a boundary line. You're looking at the volatile starting point of a sprawling global financial web. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I really hope this explainer helped you see the much bigger picture today. Thanks for joining us.